The first alien message arrived embedded in the warhead of a nuclear missile. Commander Jackson Christ stared at the holographic display floating above his command deck. Aboard the UES Retribution, humanity's first true dreadnought, the Missile One, of Earth's most advanced ICBM, is hung suspended in the alien tractor beam, like a metallic insect caught in amber. But it wasn't the weapon itself that made his blood run cold. It was what the aliens had done to it, sir, Lieutenant Vasquez called. From her station, her voice tight with barely controlled fear. The warhead's been modified. There's some kind of crystalline lattice growing through the plutonium core. It's not degrading the fissile material, it's enhancing it. Christ nodded grimly. 3 days ago, Earth's long-range defense network had detected the massive alien fleet dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Humanity's response had been immediate and characteristically violent. A barrage of 12 nuclear missiles, each carrying a 50-megaton payload, aimed directly at the largest alien vessels. The aliens had caught every single one. Now, the lead alien ship, a behemoth easily 3 times the size of Earth's largest space stations, held one of those missiles in its grasp like a teacher holding up a student's failed homework. The message was clear: we can turn your own weapons against you. Incoming transmission, reported Communications Officer Kellert, his scarred face pale beneath the bridge's crimson lighting. It's in perfect English, sir. Put it through. The voice that filled the bridge was melodious, almost hypnotic, carrying undertones that seemed to resonate in their bones. Greetings, humans of Earth. I am Hierarch Zulthara of the Dominion Fleet. Your primitive greeting has been enlightening. Christ felt his jaw clench. Primitive greeting. The bastards were mocking them. We have studied your weapon, the voice continued. Such crude craftsmanship, yet so delightfully destructive. We have improved upon your design. Consider this our gift to you, a demonstration of what your own ingenuity can accomplish when properly guided. The modified missile in the alien's tractor beam suddenly ignited, but instead of the familiar mushroom cloud of atomic fire, the warhead bloomed into something far more terrifying, a controlled fusion reaction that burned like a miniature star, its energy contained and focused into a coherent beam that lanced out toward a distant asteroid. The asteroid didn't explode, it simply ceased to exist, converted instantly to elementary particles and dispersed energy. Fascinating, Zulthara's voice purred. Your species shows such promise, such delightful brutality. We have observed your wars, your genocides, your capacity for creative destruction. You would make excellent additions to our collection. Collection? Christ growled. Oh yes, Commander Christ, we know who you are. We know all about humanity's greatest military minds. You see, we are collectors of sorts. We travel the galaxy, gathering the most promising warrior species, refining them, improving them, and adding them to our forces. The Krellian berserkers of Proxima 7, the hive mind tacticians of the Nether Cluster, the cybernetic assassins of the Void Rings, all now serve the Dominion. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of life support systems. Every officer present understood the implication. They weren't facing an invasion, they were facing a harvest. Your species shows particular promise, Zulthara continued. Such creativity in warfare, such beautiful aggression. We have analyzed your military history, the firebombing of Dresden, the atomic devastation of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the chemical horrors of your world wars. Magnificent. We will preserve these traits while eliminating your more troublesome characteristics. Your independence, for instance, your stubborn refusal to accept proper authority. Christ's knuckles went white as he gripped his command chair. Around him, his crew exchanged glances filled with a mixture of terror and rage. They'd all grown up hearing stories of humanity's darkest moments, but to have an alien dissect their species' capacity for violence with such clinical appreciation. We offer you a choice, the Hierarch said. Surrender now, and your transformation will be painless. Your consciousness will be preserved, refined, and incorporated into our collective. You will experience the glory of serving a truly superior civilization. Refuse, and we will simply take what we need from your corpses. The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Lieutenant Vasquez was the first to speak. Sir, long-range sensors are detecting massive energy buildups across their fleet. They're charging some kind of weapons array. Christ stood slowly, his gray eyes reflecting the hellish glow of the bridge's warning lights. Behind him, the massive view screen showed the alien fleet arrayed in perfect formation, dozens of ships, each one larger and more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. "Signal all ships," he said quietly. "Battle stations. Full combat alert, sir." Keller said hesitantly, "Shouldn't we at least consider—" "Consider what?" Christ's voice cut through the bridge. Like a blade. "Surrender. Let them lobotomize our entire species and turn us into their pet. Soldiers." He turned to face his crew, and they saw something in his eyes that made them sit up straighter. "They think they know us. They think they understand human nature because they've watched us kill each other." He smiled, and it was a predator's smile. "They have no idea what we're capable of when we're united." The first shot came without warning, a lance of coherent energy, brilliant as a solar flare, speared through the void and struck the UES Defiance amidships. The destroyer's shields flared once, then collapsed entirely. The beam didn't simply penetrate the hull, it unraveled the molecular bonds of the ship's armor plating, turning 200 meters of military-grade titanium carbon composite into a cloud of superheated plasma. Captain Rena Voss had exactly the 0.3 seconds to scream all hands abandon before the Defiance came apart like a flower made of fire and shrapnel. "Evasive maneuvers," Christ roared as the Retribution lurched to starboard, her massive bulk moving with surprising grace. "All batteries, return fire." The human fleet's response was immediate and devastating. 37 ships opened fire simultaneously, their combined barrage turning the space between the fleets into a web of destruction. Particle beams, plasma torpedoes, and kinetic projectiles streaked toward the alien formation at significant fractions of light speed. The aliens' point defense was flawless. Energy shields flared around each ship, deflecting or absorbing the incoming fire with contemptuous ease. A few kinetic rounds penetrated the barriers, only to detonate harmlessly against hull plating that seemed to repair itself even as they watched. "Minimal damage to enemy fleet," reported Tactical Officer Brennan, his voice tight with disbelief. "Their shields are regenerating faster than we can deplete them." Another alien beam lanced out, this one aimed at the heavy cruiser Vindication. Captain Torres, a veteran of the Martian colony wars, rolled his ship at the last second. The beam clipped the cruiser's starboard engine array, instantly vaporizing 3 fusion reactors and sending the ship into an uncontrolled spin. "Torres, report," Christ demanded. The response crackled with static and the sound of klaxons. "We're hit bad, Jax. Lost main propulsion and half our power grid. We can still fight, but we're sitting ducks. Fall back to the secondary line," Christ ordered. "Henderson, bring the Sovereign forward to cover their withdrawal." The battle was only 3 minutes old, and already the aliens were systematically dismantling the human fleet. Their weapons were surgical in their precision, targeting critical systems with impossible accuracy. It was as if they knew exactly where to hit to cause maximum damage while preserving the crews for their twisted collection. "Sir," Vasquez called out, her voice barely audible over the chaos. "I'm detecting some kind of scanning beam focused on our bridge. They're targeting individual personnel." Christ felt ice form in his veins. "What do you mean?" "The beam is cataloging our crew, recording biometric data, neural patterns, genetic markers. It's like they're shopping." As if summoned by her words, Hierarch Zolthara's voice filled the bridge once more. "Fascinating creatures. Commander Christ, your tactical instincts are quite remarkable. And Lieutenant Vasquez, your pattern recognition capabilities would serve you as well. We are looking forward to adding your minds to our collection." "Go to hell," Christ snarled. "Such spirit. This is precisely why your species fascinates us. Even in the face of certain defeat, you maintain your defiance. The Krellians fought to the last. Yes, but they were driven by simple bloodlust. The Nether were coldly logical until the end. But you humans, you fight not because you must, but because you choose to. Such beautiful futility." 3 more alien beams found their marks simultaneously. The destroyer Fury simply vanished in a ball of white-hot plasma. The cruiser unyielding lost her forward sections, the crew compartments venting atmosphere and bodies into the void. The frigate Razor's edge died more slowly, her hull breached in a dozen places, life support failing as her crew fought desperately to maintain basic systems. In 15 minutes of combat, the human fleet had lost 8 ships with minimal damage inflicted on the enemy. It was a massacre disguised as a battle. "All ships, form up on the Retribution," Christ ordered. "We're going to ram them, sir." Brandon looked up from his tactical display, his face pale with shock. "You heard me. Plot a collision course for their flagship. All ships, Prepare for ramming speed. Commander, Vasquez said quietly. Even if we could penetrate their shields, a ramming attack would be suicide. We'd never survive. No, Christ agreed. But we might just give them something to remember us by. The remaining human ships began to accelerate, their formation tightening as they built up speed. It was a desperate gambit 30. Ships against a fleet of hundreds. Their primitive weapons against technology that seemed almost magical in its superiority. But as the human fleet approached ramming speed, something unexpected happened. The alien formation began to shift, their perfect order dissolving into something that looked almost like concern. They're moving. Brennan reported, the larger ships are falling back. They're actually trying to avoid us. Zulthara's voice returned, but for the first time, it carried a note of uncertainty. Curious. Your tactical doctrine suggests a willingness to accept total annihilation in exchange for minimal damage to our forces. This is inefficient. Crest smiled grimly. That's the thing about humans, you alien bastard. We don't calculate odds. We just fight. Inefficient, Zulthara repeated, as if tasting the word. And yet, intriguing. Very well. We will give you a demonstration of what efficiency looks like. The alien flagship began to glow with a different kind of energy, not the focus beams they've been using, but something that seemed to bend space itself around the massive vessel. The air on the bridge of the Retribution began to taste of copper and ozone. Energy readings are off the charts, Vasquez reported, her voice barely a whisper. Whatever they're charging, it's big enough to the weapon fired, not a beam this time, but a wave of pure destructive force that rippled outward from the alien flagship like a stone, dropped in still water. Where it touched the human ships, they didn't explode, they simply stopped existing. Their matter converted to energy in a flash of light that briefly outshone the distant sun. When the wave passed, only 7 human ships remained, scattered and broken, but somehow still intact. The Retribution shuddered as her hull plating glowed cherry red from the residual energy. But her crew was alive. Why, Christ gasped, staring at the empty space where his fleet had been. An educational demonstration. Zulthara replied, we spared you and a few others so that you might understand the futility of resistance. Your species shows promise, but you must learn discipline. You must learn to accept your place in the natural order. The alien flagship began to advance, its tractor beams reaching out toward the surviving human vessels, like the arms of some cosmic predator. This is your final opportunity, the hierarch continued. Surrender now, and we will preserve your consciousness. Continue to resist, and we will simply extract what we need from your neural tissue. Post-mortem, Christ looked around his bridge at Vasquez with her determined jaw, at Brennan with his hands steady on the weapons controls, at the communications officers still trying to raise the scattered remains of the fleet. They were beaten, outgunned, and facing an enemy that could erase them from existence with a thought, but they were still human. All remaining ships, Christ said into his commune, his voice carrying to every survivor, this is retribution. We're going to show these collectors what it really means to be human. The emergency session of the Earth Defense Council convened in the deepest bunker, beneath the Sahara Desert. 3 kilometers of reinforced concrete and steel between the assembled leaders, and the alien fleet now advancing on Earth's inner system. Director Fatima al-Rashid stood before the holographic display showing the tactical situation, her weathered face grim in the bunker's harsh lighting. The remaining ships of Christ's fleet were falling back toward Mars, conducting a fighting retreat that had cost them to more vessels in the past 6 hours. The situation is critical, she announced to the assembled representatives. The aliens have demonstrated weapons capability that exceeds our most optimistic projections by several orders of magnitude. Commander Christ estimates we have perhaps 18 hours before they reach Earth orbit. Admiral Dmitry Volkov, commander of the Solar Defense Grid, leaned forward in his chair. What about the orbital platforms, the lunar batteries? Ineffective, al-Rashid replied curtly. Analysis of the engagement data shows their shields can absorb the full output of our planetary defense network for approximately 17 minutes. Before showing signs of depletion, they would need less than 3 minutes to eliminate all our fixed installations. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the sister of the lieutenant aboard the Retribution, spoke up from her position. At the science station, there might be another option. My analysis of the combat recordings shows something interesting about their weapons. They're not using conventional physics, explain, al-Rashid ordered. Their energy weapons appear to function by temporarily altering the fundamental constants of reality in a localized area. They're not just hitting our ships with energy, they're changing the laws of physics to make our matter unstable. Dr. Vasquez manipulated the holographic display, showing a slow-motion replay of the Defiance's destruction. Watch carefully. The beam doesn't melt or vaporize the hull. It convinces the atomic bonds that they don't want to exist anymore. The room fell silent as the implication sank in. If they can alter physical constants, continued Dr. Vasquez, then they might be vulnerable to weapons that operate outside conventional physics. The experimental quantum torpedoes we've been developing might actually be effective. General Marcus Webb, head of Earth's ground forces, shook his head. We've only got 6 prototype quantum torpedoes, and they're completely untested. The theoretical yields are promising, but we don't even know if they'll function in a combat environment. Then we test them, Al-Rashid said grimly. Elena, how quickly can you prepare the torpedoes for deployment, given the circumstances for ours? But there's a problem. The quantum torpedoes require a specific delivery system. They can't be fired from conventional launchers. The quantum field generators are too unstable. They need to be hand-delivered by a pilot in a specially modified fighter. The room erupted in arguments and shouted questions, but Al-Rashid's voice cut through the chaos. It's a suicide mission. Not necessarily, Dr. Vasquez replied. The pilot would have to get within 2 kilometers of the target to ensure detonation, and at that range, the quantum cascade would certainly destroy the delivery craft. But there's a narrow window, perhaps 0.3 seconds, where the pilot could eject and might survive if they were wearing a full environmental suit. Might survive. Admiral Volkov repeated flatly. What are the actual odds? Honestly, about 8%. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, Commander Christ watched his tactical display with growing desperation. The alien fleet had split into 3 groups, clearly intending to surround Earth and eliminate any possibility of escape. The remaining human ships were scattered across the solar system, conducting hit-and-run attacks that barely scratched the enemy's shields. Sir, Lieutenant Vasquez reported, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Defense Command. It's a volunteer request. Christ read the message in silence, his expression growing darker with each line. When he finished, he looked up at his bridge crew, these men and women who had followed him through the worst defeat in human history. They want volunteers for a one-way mission, he said quietly. Quantum torpedo deployment. Pilot has an 8% chance of survival. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of the life support systems and the distant rumble of the ship's engines. Communications. Officer Keller was the first to speak. I volunteer. Keller, your communications. Not a pilot. Christ began. I flew fighters in the Jupiter mining conflict, Keller replied, and I'm the best pilot on this ship. That's debatable. Tactical Officer Brennan said with a grim smile. I volunteer to, as do I, added Lieutenant Vasquez. Within minutes, every officer on the bridge had volunteered, followed by requests from throughout the ship. When the final count was tallied, 847 crew members had stepped forward for a mission that would almost certainly kill them. Christ felt something tighten in his chest. This was what the aliens didn't understand about humanity. They saw the violence, the aggression, the capacity for destruction, but they missed the other side of the coin, the willingness to sacrifice everything for something greater than themselves. I'm going, he said finally. Sir, you can't, Vasquez began. I can and I will. This is my responsibility, my fleet, my crew, my species. Christ stood slowly, his decision made. Vasquez, you have command. Get the ship back to Earth. Help coordinate the defense. Commander, she said quietly. What should I tell the crew? Christ paused at the bridge entrance, looking back at the men and women who had served with him for 3 years. They fought pirates in the asteroid belt, put down the rebellion on Titan, and now face an enemy that treated them like specimens in a laboratory. Tell them, he said, that we're going to show these bastards what it means to be human. 2 hours later, Christ strapped himself into the cockpit of a heavily modified fighter craft, its hull bristling with quantum field generators and exotic matter containment units. The quantum torpedo itself was a thing of beauty and terror, sphere of crystallized space-time that seemed to bend light around itself. Retribution controlled a quantum one. Vasquez's voice crackled through his comm system. All systems show green. You are clear for launch. Copy that. Control, quantum. One launching. The fighter shot from the Retribution's launch bay like a bolt of silver lightning. its experimental drive systems pushing it toward the alien fleet at velocities that made space itself seem to compress around the craft behind him. The surviving human ships began their final gambit, a coordinated assault designed to draw the aliens' attention away from the lone fighter carrying humanity's last hope. The Retribution led the charge, her massive guns blazing defiance at an enemy that could snuff out stars. As Christ raced toward the alien flagship, he couldn't help but smile. The collectors thought they understood human nature. They thought they could catalog their species' strengths and weaknesses like entries in some cosmic database. They were about to learn that some things couldn't be quantified. The alien flagship loomed ahead, its hull gleaming with the strange energies that powered their impossible technology. Point defense systems began to track his approach, energy beams reaching out like fingers of light. "This is for the Defiance," Christ whispered, arming the quantum torpedo. "And for every human soul you thought you could collect." The fighter began to shudder as alien weapons found their mark, systems failing one by one. But Christ held his course, the quantum torpedo's field generators howling as they prepared to tear a hole in reality itself to kilometers. 1 kilometer, 500 meters, quantum torpedo armed. He announced to no one in particular, "See you on the other side." He pressed the release button and ejected from the fighter in the same instant, his escape pod tumbling away from the alien ship as the quantum torpedo began its final approach. What happened next would be debated by physicists for generations, assuming any survived to debate it. The quantum torpedo didn't explode in any conventional sense. At the moment of impact with the alien flagship's hull, the crystallized space-time matrix destabilized, creating a localized region where the fundamental constants of physics became negotiable. For 0.7 seconds, a sphere roughly 50 meters in diameter became a place where matter and energy existed in quantum superposition, where cause and effect operated according to rules that predated the universe itself. The result was spectacular and horrifying. The alien flagship simply folded in on itself, its massive hull crumpling like paper as local space-time contracted to a single point, before exploding outward in a cascade of exotic particles and twisted metal. The ship didn't sink or fall, it ceased to exist in any meaningful sense, its constituent atoms scattered across 11 dimensions. But the explosion took more than just the flagship. Christ's escape pod, tumbling through space at several thousand meters per second, was caught in the edge of the quantum cascade. The pod's emergency beacon managed to transmit for 1.3 seconds before the wave of restructured space-time reached it. "Quantum one to anyone." Christ's voice, distorted by exotic radiation, crackled through the comm systems of every human ship in the system. "Torpedo impact confirmed. Enemy flagship eliminated. Tell my crew, tell them it was an honor." 2. The transmission cut off in a burst of static that tasted of copper and regret. Aboard the Retribution, Lieutenant Vasquez, now acting Commander Vasquez, watched the tactical display with a mixture of triumph and grief. The alien flagship was gone, its destruction sending shockwaves through the enemy formation. Several smaller vessels were already beginning to fall back, their perfect formation dissolving into something that looked almost like confusion. "Sir," Brennan reported, his voice tight with amazement, "the alien fleet they're retreating. All vessels are pulling back to the outer system." But the victory came at a cost that made Vasquez's stomach clench. The quantum cascade had done more than destroy the flagship. It had torn a hole in space itself, creating a localized anomaly that was already beginning to affect nearby ships. The heavy cruiser Indomitable, which had been providing cover for Christ's approach, was caught in the gravitational distortions. "This is Captain Morrison," the Indomitable's commander reported, his voice professionally calm despite the chaos. "We're caught in some kind of space-time distortion. Hull is buckling under gravitational stress. We're going to lose structural integrity in approximately 4 minutes. All ships. Emergency rescue protocol," Vasquez ordered. "Get shuttles to the Indomitable immediately." "Negative," Morrison replied. "The distortion field is expanding. Any ship that gets close enough for rescue will be caught in the same effect. We're already dead." "Commander, don't waste lives trying to save us." Through the view screen, Vasquez could see the Indomitable beginning to stretch like taffy, her hull elongating as differential gravitational forces tore the ship apart. The crew of 800 men and women had perhaps 3 minutes to live, and there was nothing anyone could do to help them. "This is Morrison to all ships." The captain's voice came through the comm system. steady, and professional to the end. It's been an honor serving with you all. Tell Earth, tell them we held the line. The Indomitable imploded silently, her hull compressed to a point of super-dense matter before the gravitational anomaly finally stabilized and began to dissipate. In the space of 20 minutes, humanity had won its first victory against the aliens and lost 2 ships and nearly 1,000 lives in the process. It was a Pyrrhic victory that left the survivors wondering if they could afford many more such successes, but the alien response was swift and terrifying. Incoming transmission, Communications Officer Keller reported. It's from the alien fleet. The voice that filled the bridge was different from Hierarch Zulthara's melodious tones. This one was harder, colder, carrying undertones of barely controlled rage. I am War Sovereign Kethmer of the Dominion Fleet. You have destroyed our collection ship and murdered Hierarch Zulthara, one of our most valued scholars. This act of terrorism will not go unpunished. Vasquez felt her jaw clench. Terrorism, as if defending their own species was somehow a crime. Your primitive weapon has demonstrated capabilities we did not anticipate. Kethmer continued. We underestimated your technological development. This error will not be repeated. We are implementing Protocol 7 total species extinction. Followed by planetary sterilization, the comm channel closed, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Protocol 7? Brennan asked quietly. Dr. Elena Vasquez's voice came through the comm system from Earth Defense Command, her words chilling in their clinical precision, based on our analysis of captured alien communications. Protocol 7 involves the systematic elimination of all life on a planet, followed by the harvesting of useful resources and the destruction of the planetary ecosystem. They're not planning to collect us anymore. They're planning to wipe us out entirely. The tactical display updated, showing the alien fleet reorganizing into a new formation, where before they had moved with the careful precision of scientists conducting an experiment. Now they arrange themselves with the brutal efficiency of an extermination squad. Sir, Brennan reported, long-range sensors are detecting massive energy buildups across the alien fleet. It looks like they're preparing some kind of coordinated bombardment. Vasquez stared at the display, watching as dozens of alien ships began to glow with the same terrible energy that had erased half the human fleet. But this time, they weren't targeting ships, they were targeting Earth itself. All ships. Emergency burn toward Earth, she ordered. Maximum acceleration. We need to intercept that bombardment before it reaches the planet. Commander, Keller said quietly, we've only got 5 ships left. Even if we could stop them. We'd never. We'll stop them, Vasquez interrupted. We'll stop them because we have to. Because if we don't, there won't be anything left to fight for. As the surviving human ships raced toward Earth, their crews working frantically to prepare for one final, desperate battle, the alien fleet began its bombardment. Dozens of energy beams lanced out toward the blue-green world that had given birth to humanity, each one carrying enough destructive power to boil oceans and crack continents. The beams would reach Earth in 47 minutes. The human fleet would intercept them in 43. All hands, battle stations, Vasquez announced over the ship's comm system. This is our last chance. Whatever happens, we make it count. In the depths of space, 5 human ships accelerated toward certain death, their crews united by a simple truth that the aliens had never understood. Sometimes, the most human thing you can do is refuse to surrender, even when surrender is the only logical choice. Behind them, Earth continued its ancient rotation, unaware that its children were racing through the void to save it from annihilation. Cities bustled with activity, families shared meals, children played in parks, all blissfully ignorant of the cosmic drama playing out in the darkness above. But in the depths of the Sahara bunker, Director Al-Rashid watched the tactical display. With grim determination, the quantum torpedoes had proven effective, but they had only 5 left. 5 weapons against a fleet of hundreds. The odds were impossible. The situation was hopeless. It was, in other words, a perfectly human fight. The interception occurred at 1.7 astronomical units from Earth, in the cold vacuum between Mars and the asteroid belt. 5 human ships against 47 alien vessels. Their combined firepower ratio roughly equivalent to 5 angry hornets, attacking a squadron of attack helicopters. Acting Commander Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching the alien formation spread out like a malevolent constellation. The enemy had learned from their previous encounter: no more close formations, no more single points of failure. They had arranged themselves in a dispersed pattern that would require multiple quantum torpedo strikes to eliminate. All ships, report status, she commanded. The responses came in quickly, the heavy cruiser Sovereign with 60% combat effectiveness. After taking damage in the previous engagement, the destroyers Warhawk and Tempest both operating at full capacity, and the frigate Defiant, named for her lost sister ship, running on backup power, but still combat-ready. Enemy fleet is beginning bombardment sequence, Tactical Officer Brennan reported. 47 ships targeting Earth, estimated time to impact, 38 minutes. Vasquez nodded grimly. The alien energy beams would take nearly 40 minutes to cross the distance to Earth, but once fired, they would be impossible to stop. The human ships had to prevent the bombardment from beginning, which meant attacking a numerically superior enemy force with technology that outclassed them in every category except one. Humans didn't know when to quit. All ships, attack pattern. Delta 7, Vasquez ordered. Target the ships on the flanks first. Force them to cluster together. The human fleet opened fire as one, their combined barrage lighting up the darkness between the stars. Particle beams, plasma torpedoes, and kinetic projectiles streaked toward the alien formation at significant fractions of light speed. The aliens' response was immediate and devastating. Energy beams lanced out from their ships, each one precisely calibrated to neutralize incoming threats. The human barrage was systematically dismantled, projectiles vaporized or deflected. Energy weapons dispersed harmlessly against shields that seemed to bend reality around them. But the attack had served its purpose. The alien ships began to adjust their positions, pulling back into a tighter formation to provide mutual support. It was exactly what Vasquez had hoped for. Quantum torpedo teams, prepare for deployment, she announced. Target designation, center mass of enemy formation. The frigate Defiant broke formation first, her single quantum torpedo mounted on a hastily modified fighter craft. Lieutenant Commander Sarachan, a veteran pilot from the outer colonies, throttled her engines to maximum burn as she raced toward the alien fleet. The enemy response was immediate. Dozens of point defense systems tracked her approach, energy beams reaching out like fingers of light. Chan's fighter jinked and weaved through the deadly web, her ship's armor a blaze of plating boiling away under the assault. Defiant controlled a quantum 2. She reported, her voice steady despite the chaos around her, taking heavy fire. Hull integrity at 40% and falling. Copy that, Quantum 2. You are cleared for weapon release. Chan's fighter shuddered as another alien beam found its mark, taking out her port engine array. The craft began to tumble, its trajectory becoming erratic as she fought to maintain control. I've lost attitude control, she reported, but I'm still on target. Quantum torpedo armed and ready. Eject now, Chen, Vasquez ordered. That's a direct order. Negative, Commander. If I eject now, the torpedo will miss the target zone. I'm going to ride it in. Chen's fighter, trailing plasma and debris, slammed into the hull of an alien heavy cruiser at several thousand kilometers per hour. The quantum torpedo detonated on impact, creating another localized region of altered physics that consumed the target ship and to nearby vessels in a cascade of twisted space-time. 3 enemy ships eliminated, but at the cost of the Defiant and her crew of 200. This is Sovereign, Captain Rodriguez reported. Quantum torpedo deployed. Lieutenant Hayes is inbound on the port formation. The second quantum torpedo run was a disaster. The aliens had learned from the first attack, concentrating their fire on the approaching fighter with mathematical precision. Lieutenant Hayes managed to get within 5 kilometers of his target before his craft was reduced to constituent atoms by overlapping energy beams. The quantum torpedo detonated in empty space, its exotic energies dissipating harmlessly into the void. Torpedo missed, Rodriguez reported, his voice tight with grief. Hayes is gone. The battle had been raging for 12 minutes, and the human fleet was being systematically destroyed. The destroyer Warhawk lost her forward sections to a direct hit, her crew compartments venting atmosphere and bodies into space. The Tempest managed to ram an alien frigate, both ships disappearing in a mutual annihilation that lit up the darkness like a brief star. Commander, Brennan reported, the alien fleet is beginning to form up for their bombardment run. If they maintain current course and speed, they'll be in position to fire on Earth in 18 minutes. Vasquez stared at the tactical display, watching as the alien ships arranged themselves in perfect formation for planetary bombardment. They'd weathered the human attack, absorbed the casualties, and were now preparing to carry out their mission of genocide. "Sir, communications officer," Keller called out, incoming transmission from the alien fleet. War Sovereign Kethmer's voice filled the bridge, cold and emotionless. "You have fought bravely. Humans, your species shows admirable tenacity in the face of extinction. But your resistance is futile. In 17 minutes, we will commence planetary bombardment. Your world will burn, and your species will become a footnote in galactic history." "We're not dead yet," Vasquez snarled back. "Perhaps not, but you will be soon. We have studied your remaining vessels. The Retribution carries the quantum torpedoes. The Sovereign has won. 3 weapons against 41 ships. The mathematics are quite clear." The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in grim silence. Vasquez looked around at her crewmen and women who had volunteered to die for their species, who had watched their friends and comrades be consumed by alien fire, who now faced impossible odds with the same steady determination that had carried humanity from the caves to the stars. "All remaining ships, form up on the Retribution," she ordered. "We're going to hit them with everything we have left." "Commander," Brennan said quietly, "even if all 3 quantum torpedoes find their targets, we'll only eliminate 3 ships. That leaves 38 vessels still capable of bombarding Earth." "I know," Vasquez replied, "but maybe we can damage enough of them to delay the bombardment. Buy us some time to evacuate the major cities." It was a desperate hope, and everyone on the bridge knew it. Earth's population was 12 billion people. Even if they had months instead of minutes, evacuation would be impossible. But they were going to try anyway, because that's what humans did. The Retribution and Sovereign began their final approach, their remaining quantum torpedoes loaded and ready. Around them, the wreckage of the human fleet drifted through space-twisted metal and flash-frozen atmosphere. The graves of nearly 3,000 men and women who had died defending their home, sir. Keller reported, "I'm picking up multiple energy signatures from the asteroid belt. It looked like ships." Vasquez felt her heart skip. "How many?" "I count 17 distinct signatures. They're accelerating toward our position at maximum burn." The tactical display updated, showing 17 new contacts racing toward the battle. For a moment, Vasquez allowed herself to hope that somehow, impossibly, Earth Defense Command had managed to deploy reinforcements. Then the new ships opened communications, and her hope turned to something much more dangerous. "This is Captain Holt of the UES Vengeance," a familiar voice announced. "Mining Fleet 7 reporting for duty. We heard you could use some help." Mining Fleet 7, 17 industrial vessels, each one designed to crack asteroids and extract precious metals from the debris. They weren't warships. They were essentially flying construction equipment operated by civilian crews. But they were here. "Captain Holt," Vasquez responded, "you need to get out of here. This is a military engagement you're not equipped for." "With respect, Commander," Holt interrupted, "we're not going anywhere. These bastards want to kill our families, our children. Every man and woman in this fleet volunteered to be here. We know what we're up against, and we know the odds. But we're not going to sit in the asteroid belt and watch Earth burn." The mining ships spread out into a ragged formation, their industrial lasers and plasma cutters powering up. They were civilian vessels crewed by miners, engineers, and technicians, people who had spent their lives carving useful resources from dead rock in the depths of space. Now they were preparing to fight for the most precious resource of all, the right to exist. "All ships," Vasquez announced, her voice carrying to every human vessel in the battle zone, "this is our final attack. We hit them hard, we hit them fast, and we make every shot count. For Earth, for humanity, for everyone. We've lost and everyone we're fighting to save." The combined human fleet to military vessels, and 17 mining ships charged toward the alien formation like a pack of wolves, attacking a pride of lions. They were outgunned, outnumbered, and facing technology that bordered on magical. In its sophistication, they attacked anyway. The mining ships opened fire first, their industrial weapons surprisingly effective against alien shields. Where military-grade particle beams had been absorbed or deflected, the crude plasma cutters designed to slice through asteroid rock began to overload the enemy's defensive systems. "They're disrupting our targeting computers," an alien voice announced in fractured English. "The industrial frequencies are interfering with our shield harmonics." For the first time in the battle, human weapons began to find their mark. The mining shipwreck hauler managed to punch through an alien frigate's shields, with her massive plasma cutter slicing through the enemy hull like a hot knife through butter. The frigate exploded in a satisfying ball of fire and debris. But the victory was short-lived. The aliens adapted quickly, their point defense systems recalibrating to target the mining ships specifically. Within minutes, 5 of the civilian vessels had been destroyed, their crews dying as they fought to protect a world most of them had never seen. "This is the Asteroid Queen," Captain Maria Santos reported as her ship's hull began to glow under alien fire. "We're taking critical damage. Hull breach on decks 3 through 7. We're not going to make it. All ships, fall back," Vasquez ordered. "Get out of there." "Negative, Commander," Santos replied. "We came here to fight, and that's what we're going to do." Asteroid Queen to all mining ships, ram them, ram the bastards, and make it count. What followed was perhaps the most desperate and heroic action in human military history. 12 mining ships, their hulls breached and their crews dying, turned their vessels into guided missiles. They rammed alien ships with the same determination their crews had once shown in pursuing valuable asteroid claims, turning industrial accidents into acts of war. The mining ship Deep Digger took out an alien heavy cruiser, both vessels disappearing in a fireball that could be seen from Mars. The Ore Runner managed to ram the enemy ship simultaneously, her hull splitting apart as she caught them in a scissor maneuver that eliminated all 3 vessels. In 15 minutes of desperate combat, the mining fleet was completely destroyed, but they had taken 14 alien ships with them, reducing the enemy bombardment force to 27 vessels. "Sir," Brennan reported, his voice filled with a mixture of awe and grief, "the mining ships are all gone, but they cut the alien force nearly in half." Vasquez nodded, her throat tight with emotion. 17 ships crewed by civilians, miners, and engineers who had volunteered to die for people they'd never met. Their sacrifice would be remembered for as long as humanity existed. If humanity survived the next 10 minutes, the remaining alien ships were now in position for planetary bombardment, their weapons charging with the distinctive energy signature that had already destroyed so much of the human fleet. In 8 minutes, they would commence firing on Earth. All remaining ships, Vasquez announced, prepare for quantum torpedo deployment. "This is our last chance." The Retribution and Sovereign began their final approach, carrying humanity's last hope in the form of 3 quantum torpedoes. It wasn't enough, not nearly enough, but it was all they had left. The quantum torpedo run began with a transmission that would be studied by military historians for centuries. "This is Acting Commander Vasquez of the UES Retribution," she announced on an open channel that reached every remaining human ship and monitoring station from Mercury to Pluto. "We are beginning our final attack on the alien bombardment fleet. To everyone listening on Earth, in the colonies, in the deep space stations, know that we did not surrender. Know that we fought to the last ship, the last crew, the last breath." She paused, looking around the bridge at the men and women who had followed her through humanity's darkest hour. "If we fail today, remember us not as victims, but as soldiers who chose to stand when we could have knelt. Remember that when they came to harvest us like cattle, we showed them what it means to be human." The Retribution and Sovereign accelerated toward the alien formation, their quantum torpedo fighters launching simultaneously. Lieutenant Commander Park from the Retribution and Captain Torres himself from the Sovereign piloted their fighters toward certain death, carrying the last 3 quantum torpedoes humanity possessed. The alien response was overwhelming. Every remaining ship in their fleet concentrated fire on the approaching fighters, creating a wall of energy that turned space itself into a hell of coherent light and exotic particles. Park's fire lasted 8 seconds before being vaporized by overlapping particle beams. His quantum torpedo detonated harmlessly in empty space, its exotic energies lighting up the darkness with the brief radiance of a failed star. Torres managed to get closer, his superior piloting skills and the Sovereign's covering fire buying him precious seconds. But as he approached the alien formation, his fire began to come apart under the concentrated bombardment. "This is Torres," he reported, his voice calm despite the chaos. "I'm hit bad, losing attitude control, and my torpedo guidance system is offline, but I can still reach them. Captain, eject now." Someone shouted over the comm. Vasquez couldn't tell who. "Negative, manual targeting only. I have to write it in." Torres' fighter, trailing fire and debris, slammed into the hull of an alien battlecruiser, The quantum torpedo detonated on impact, creating a cascade of altered physics that consumed the target ship and severely damaged the others. But it wasn't enough. 24 alien ships remained, still more than enough to sterilize Earth's surface. As if sensing the humans' despair, War Sovereign BlackHFY's voice filled the comm channels one final time. "Your resistance has been educational," he announced. "We have learned much about human warfare. Your willingness to sacrifice yourselves for no strategic gain, your emotional attachment to individuals over collective survival, your inability to accept logical surrender. Even when faced with certain extinction, the alien fleet began to arrange itself in bombardment formation, their weapons charging with the energy that would soon turn Earth into a lifeless cinder. These traits make you unsuitable for collection," BlackHFY continued. "You are the unpredictable, the chaotic. Better to eliminate you entirely and find more manageable species for our forces." Vasquez stared at the tactical display, watching as the aliens prepared to commit genocide. 24 ships against her single remaining vessel, which carried one quantum torpedo, the last hope of human civilization. She was preparing to launch when something impossible happened. "Commander," Kellard announced, his voice tight with disbelief, "I'm detecting massive energy signatures from the outer system. Multiple contacts, approaching at—" "That can't be right. Report," Vasquez snapped. 12 contacts, accelerating toward our position at 97% light speed, sir. Nothing we've built can move that fast." The tactical display updated, showing 12 new signatures racing in from the direction of Alpha Centauri. As they approached, details became visible, and what they revealed made Vasquez's blood run cold. The ships were human in design, but wrong somehow, sleeker, more advanced, their hulls gleaming with the same exotic energies that powered alien technology. They moved with predatory grace, their formation perfect, their approach calculated and precise. "Incoming transmission," Kellard reported. The voice that filled the bridge was human, but it carried undertones that seemed to resonate. In their bones, the same harmonic distortions that had characterized alien communications. "This is Fleet Commander Richardson of the Terran Collective," the voice announced. "We are here to assist in the defense of Earth." The name sent a chill through Vasquez's spine. Marcus Richardson had been the commander of the colony's ship New Horizon, which had disappeared beyond the heliopause 15 years ago with 50,000 colonists aboard. The ship had been presumed lost with all hands after failing to report in from the Alpha Centauri system. "Commander Richardson," Vasquez replied carefully. "This is Acting Commander Vasquez of the UES Retribution. We were told the New Horizon was lost." "Lost? No, Commander. We were improved." The 12 ships spread out into an attack formation. That was textbook human doctrine, yet executed with inhuman precision. As they closed with the alien fleet, details became visible that made Vasquez's stomach clench. The hulls were covered with the same crystalline growths they'd seen on the modified nuclear missile. The engine signatures matched no human technology. They were using alien propulsion systems. And when they opened communications with each other, the voices were human, but they spoke in perfect unison, as if controlled by a single mind. "The Dominion found us 3 years ago," Richardson's voice continued. "They attempted to collect us, as they are attempting to collect Earth. But we adapted, we learned, we became something new." The 12 ships opened fire on the alien bombardment fleet, their weapons a hybrid of human engineering and alien technology. Energy beams that bent space-time struck shields that had been designed to deflect similar attacks, creating cascade failures that tore through the enemy formation. But the aliens weren't helpless. They returned fire with desperate efficiency, their beams finding marks on the hybrid ship's hulls. One of Richardson's vessels, the Prometheus, according to the tactical display, took a direct hit and exploded in a ball of exotic fire. "They adapted our technology," Richardson reported, his voice showing no emotion at the loss of his ship and crew. "But they made an error. They assumed we would remain static, unchanged. They did not anticipate evolution. The battle between the alien fleet and Richardson's hybrid ships was beyond anything Vasquez had witnessed. Weapons that altered the fundamental constants of physics clashed with shields that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Ships phased in and out of normal spacetime, appearing behind their enemies or attacking from angles that violated three-dimensional geometry. In 10 minutes of combat, the alien bombardment fleet was reduced to 8 ships, while Richardson's force had lost 4 vessels. "Fascinating." War Sovereign BlackHFY's voice cut through the chaos. The humans have been modified, enhanced. You are no longer purely human, are you? Commander Richardson, we are what humanity becomes when it refuses to surrender. Richardson replied, we are adaptation, we are evolution, we are what your species created when you tried to harvest. U.S. The remaining alien ships began to retreat, falling back toward the outer system, but Richardson's hybrid fleet pursued them relentlessly, their weapons reaching out across impossible distances to strike at the fleeing enemy. Commander Vasquez. Richardson's voice filled the bridge of the Retribution. We need to talk. As the hybrid ships closed with the Retribution, Vasquez could see the truth that she'd been trying to deny. The hulls weren't just covered with alien technology, they were grown, organic, living things that pulsed with their own internal light. And through the transparent sections of the command bridges, she could see the crews. They still looked human, but their eyes held the same harmonic glow as alien energy weapons. They moved with perfect synchronization, their individual personalities submerged into something larger and more terrible. The colonists of the New Horizon hadn't been destroyed by the aliens. They'd been collected, processed, and turned into something that was no longer entirely human. And now they'd come home. The meeting took place aboard the Retribution, in the ship's main conference room that had been hastily cleared of debris from the recent battle. Acting Commander Vasquez sat across from Fleet Commander Richardson, trying not to stare at the man who had once been one of humanity's greatest exploration leaders. Richardson looked human at first glance, but the details were wrong. His eyes held flecks of crystalline blue that pulsed with their own light. His movements were too precise, too calculated, and when he spoke, his voice carried harmonic undertones that made the bulkheads vibrate. You're wondering what we become, Richardson said, his tone carrying an odd mixture of human inflection and alien coldness. The thought had occurred to me, Vasquez replied carefully. We are what the Dominion calls a successful integration. Richardson explained. When they found our colony, they attempted their standard collection protocol: extract useful genetic material, preserve valuable neural patterns, eliminate the rest. But something unexpected happened. He stood and walked to the conference room's viewport, staring out at the wreckage-strewn space where the fleets had fought for the future of human civilization. We refused to be processed individually, he continued, when they began the extraction procedures. We linked our minds together, all 50,000 colonists, forming a collective consciousness. The alien technology, designed to work on individual subjects, couldn't adapt to our networked intelligence, so you became like them, Vasquez said quietly. No. Richardson turned back to face her, and for a moment she saw something recognizably human in his altered features. We became something new. We retained our human creativity, our unpredictability, our refusal to accept defeat, but we gained their technological capabilities, their understanding of physics beyond the conventional models, and the cost. Richardson was silent for a long moment. We are no longer individuals in the way you understand the term. We think, act, and feel as one entity, but we remember what it was like to be human. We remember Earth, our families, our dreams of exploring the stars as free people. Through the viewport, they could see the surviving ships of Richardson's fleet. 8 vessels remained, their hybrid crews working with perfect coordination to repair battle damage and tend to their wounded. The Dominion made an error, Richardson continued. They assumed that consciousness was binary, either individual or collective. They never conceived of a species that could be both. We retained human individualism within a collective framework, creating something they couldn't predict or control. And now you've come home, Vasquez said. We've come to offer Earth a choice. Richardson's expression grew grave. The Dominion will return. What you face today was a single collection fleet. There are thousands more scattered across the galaxy. They will send increasingly powerful forces until Earth is taken or destroyed. He activated a holographic display showing the local spiral arm of the galaxy. Red markers indicated Dominion fleets, their positions forming a web of conquest that stretched across hundreds of star systems. But there is another path, Richardson said. We can share our technology, our understanding of alien science. Humanity could become something greater than it is, still human in essence, but enhanced, adapted, capable of standing against threats like the Dominion. Vasquez studied the display, her mind racing through the implications. You're talking about changing our entire species. I'm talking about survival. The universe is not kind to species that refuse to evolve. We learned that lesson the hard way, and if we refuse, Richardson's expression grew cold. Then you will face the next Dominion fleet alone, and the one after that, and the one after that, until Earth is nothing but radioactive slag orbiting a dying star. The conversation was interrupted by a communication from Earth Defense Command. Director Al-Rashid's face appeared on the holographic display, her expression grim. "Commander Vasquez, we've been monitoring your conversation with Commander Richardson. The decision he's asking us to make affects the entire human species. This isn't something that can be decided by military personnel alone." "I understand, Director," Vasquez replied. "What's the status of Earth's defenses?" "Minimal. The quantum torpedo program expended our entire stockpile, and it would take years to build more, assuming we could acquire the exotic materials necessary. If the aliens return in force, we have no effective means of resistance." Richardson stepped forward, his altered features reflecting the conference room's lighting in unnatural ways. "Director Al-Rashid, I knew your predecessor, Admiral Collins, was a good man, a visionary who understood that humanity's future lay among the stars. He would have grasped the necessity of adaptation. Admiral Collins is dead." Al-Rashid replied curtly, "Killed in the Martian uprising 15 years ago. I'm not interested in what dead men might have thought. Then let me speak to what living humans must think," Richardson said. "The Dominion has cataloged over 400 species across this galaxy. Of those, only 12 have successfully resisted collection or extinction. Each of those 12 underwent fundamental changes to their biology, their technology, their way of thinking. Evolution isn't optional when facing galactic-scale threats." Al-Rashid was quiet for a long moment, her face reflecting the weight of the decision she was being asked to make. "What exactly are you proposing?" she asked finally. "Gradual integration," Richardson replied. "Voluntary at first. We share our technology, help you build ships capable of defending Earth and the colonies. Those who choose to undergo enhancement can do so. Those who prefer to remain baseline human can live their lives as they always have. But eventually, the enhanced humans will become the majority. It's simple evolutionary pressure when facing existential threats. Species adapt or die." Vasquez found herself thinking of the mining fleet that had sacrificed itself to buy Earth precious minutes. Civilian volunteers who had faced impossible odds because it was the right thing to do. Would those same people choose to fundamentally alter their humanity to protect their children and grandchildren? "There's another consideration," she said quietly. "The Dominion will be back. Richardson's right about that. And when they come, they'll bring everything they have. Earth needs allies, needs technology that can match their capabilities." "At the cost of our souls?" Al-Rashid asked. "At the cost of survival," Vasquez replied. "I've seen what the Dominion does to species that resist them. Complete annihilation. At least Richardson's path offers a chance for humanity to continue, even in an altered form." The debate continued for hours, broadcast to every inhabited world. In the solar system, politicians, scientists, military leaders, and ordinary citizens weighed in on the most important decision in human history. Some argued for acceptance, citing the clear threat posed by the Dominion. Others insisted that humanity must remain pure, whatever the cost. In the end, the decision was made by referendum. Every adult human in the solar system was given a vote on whether to accept Richardson's offer of enhancement. The results were closer than anyone had expected: 51.3% in favor, 48.7% opposed. It was barely a majority, but it was enough. The integration began slowly with volunteers from the military and scientific communities. The process was complex, involving nanotechnological modification of neural pathways and the introduction of crystalline structures that could interface with alien technology. But unlike the Dominion's brutal collection methods, Richardson's enhancement preserved individual consciousness while adding collective capabilities. Within a year, Earth had launched its first hybrid ships vessels that combined human engineering with alien science, crewed by humans who retained their individuality while sharing a collective understanding of advanced physics. When the Dominion returned 5 years later, they found Earth defended by a fleet that they couldn't predict or categorize. The enhanced humans fought with human creativity and alien technology, their tactics shifting and adapting faster than the Dominion's strategic computers could compensate. The battle lasted 3 days and ended with the complete destruction of the Dominion collection fleet. For the first time in their galactic expansion, the Dominion had encountered a species that could match their technology. while retaining the unpredictability that made them dangerous. Commander Vasquez, now Fleet Admiral Vasquez of the Terran Collective, stood on the bridge of the hybrid dreadnought Retribution II, watching as the last Dominion ship failed to combine human-alien weaponry. She had chosen enhancement 2 years earlier, and while she still felt recognizably human, she could sense the collective consciousness of her crew. Their thoughts and emotions flowing together in perfect harmony. Signal all ships, she commanded. Begin recovery operations for survivors. Mum, her tactical officer reported. Preliminary analysis suggests no Dominion survivors. Their ships were completely destroyed. Not Dominion survivors, Vasquez corrected. Human survivors. There will be other species they've collected, other worlds they've harvested. We're going to find them, free them, and offer them the same choice we were given. As the Terran Collective Fleet began its work of liberation, a message was transmitted to every inhabited system in the galaxy, a message that would be repeated by a dozen species over the following decades. This is the Terran Collective to all enslaved peoples. We were once human. We faced extinction at the hands of the Dominion. We refused to surrender. We adapted. We evolved. We survived. And now we're coming for you. The galaxy would never be the same. The Dominion has sought to collect humanity, to add their warrior nature to their growing empire. Instead, they had created something unprecedented, a species that could bridge the gap between individual and collective consciousness, between human creativity and alien technology. The collectors had become the collected, and the collected had become something beyond either classification. They had become human.